think it's really fantastic that people are putting flags up everywhere, particularly as Birmingham Council think that the Union flag should come down, but others should be proudly flown. It's insulting and disrespectful, but it's fantastic that people are flying them out, Mike. And I think that it's sort of symbolic and representative of the fact that, on the first hand, many people, maybe the silent majority, actually feel very proud still to be part of Britain and the history and the legacy and the virtues and the values and of England and everything that comes with that, like the formal and informal constitution, rights, liberties, and the historic contribution to the world. And yet there's some people that just kind of continually want to put that down. There's a sense of disgust with history. We've been told it's all dead white males that are really bad and toxic and nothing ever's done. We've had that in our institutions, in education, and in many of the institutions that are running things, the obsession around DEI and other things that become very contorted. So I think that it's fantastic that they're going up much farther than they've been taken down, much quicker, than they've been taken down. But the bigger question for everyone right now is, when it comes to issues like illegal migrants, borders, questions of resources, and people raise questions and they want to address those things, how come some people are treated in some ways and some in others? And that's really the essential question. Have we got policing without fear or favour? Do we have a fair judiciary? Or, as we've seen in response to Southport, did we see a situation where the Prime Minister promised that people would be on remand? Did we see the Home Office call people criminals on their official post before all of them that was proven or not? These are things that are very big questions about creating a context and a backdrop. How are people treated when they're actually arrested? Is it without fear or favour? Is Lucy Connolly, was she treated in the same way as Ricky Jones, when Ricky Jones said that he would cut the throats and get rid of all these fascists and disgusting Nazis, talking about a range of protesters? But that's quite lively language, Mike.
Well, it really is. Let's just it's not just lively language; it's pretty lively behaviour. Let's have a look at what he said when he said it.
We've got children and women using those trains, destroying some relatives. They are disgusting, nasty bastards, and we need to cut all their throats and get rid of them all.
I mean, he didn't even say, for all I care, somebody could cut their throat or they could have their throats cut. He said we need to cut all their throats. It's pretty obvious what he means.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm a free speech absolutist, and he's gone into a situation where there's a jury, and I think it's important that we allow juries to make these decisions.
Sure.
But it's really, I mean, what he says is very disgusting. It's reprehensible. He does the motion with his hands, and he says we need to cut their throats. I mean, look, it's pretty obvious. But I think the key point with all of this is, Mike, that Lucy Connolly puts a post on social media, and she says, "For all I care," as you say, and it's a nasty post, but she takes it down 4 hours later. It's also in the backdrop of her own particular experience with children, because that elicited a response and a reaction. That
should have been a mitigating circumstance, certainly. And also, the way that she was sort of, if you like, sort of pushed through the system. She was told, if you plead guilty, you will get a smaller sentence, you'll see your family sooner, and you might even get released on remand until the actual sentencing hearing and all of that. She was told a pack of lies, and that's why she did what she did. This guy was held very briefly, and then was allowed to plead not guilty, and then was allowed to wait for quite a few months before his trial, and then got himself a jury. If he'd been given the same advice as Lucy Connolly, he probably would have pleaded guilty.
Well, that's exactly the point. So I want to say that there's a lot of the people that are in prison pleaded guilty in similar circumstances. They were kind of railroaded, they were told certain things. And I really want to encourage everyone to know that, in these circumstances where things are very heated, that if you ever find yourself in that situation, well, firstly, I'd recommend that become part of the Free Speech Union, because they've got great representation. But like some people who've got expensive lawyers who are able to get themselves represented, they pleaded not guilty. They didn't just take that, and they've demonstrated, you know, Bernie Spofforth and others have shown that when you get 6 police come around your house, and it's terrifying, right? Most people have never been in a situation like that, understandably, certainly not for something they've said, but that you have to have cool head and hold the line. The problem is that a lot of people who found themselves in those circumstances, as you say, were told certain things. They'd never been in a police cell. You know, Peter Lynch, grandfather, all of a sudden finds himself in these circumstances, and others for shouting at dogs and shouting at policemen or just writing things on social media. And we have many of them in prison. Peter Lynch very tragically took his own life in there. And there's a different set of circumstances with lawyers, people not being on remand immediately, and also the kind of context that was driven post Southport by the Prime Minister and the Home Office. Very different set of circumstances. But the thing is, it's very dangerous now, Mike, because if the public start believing increasingly that both the police and the judiciary are not treating people equally and fairly, that is a huge problem for Britain. And we need to make sure we get things back on track, because people keep talking about a tinderbox, but I don't like all those terms, and I think some people are encouraging that. I think what's been great about many of these recent protests is people have been calm and peaceful, local people, but asserting themselves robustly. But it's very dangerous, and we have to get back on track with policing without fear or favour, and not having a two-tier approach. It doesn't mean that just because people saw, for instance, at the Britannia Hotel on Sunday, the police responding with a Section 14 very robustly. You know, fine if police are going to be robust about things, but these are peaceful demonstrators, right? I'm not sure why that happens there, but then other protests are treated completely differently. And so you see the public sees all this, and it becomes very grating, and they know they're getting treated in a different way, and it's unacceptable.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, as I say, you see the police like that in such large numbers. There was nothing really to fear from that crowd. There was no reason to think that they were going to invade the hotel or anything. You know, most of them are women and children who are simply showing their, you know, unhappiness at what's actually going on. Because meanwhile, the people that are getting all the attention and getting all the money and getting all the free stuff are inside the hotel.
Yeah, and if you look back as well at the treatment of different people in different contexts across the board, I mean, there's really stark examples of people that were treated, like, for instance, during Black Lives Matters and some of those protests, and people that actually drop kicked to, you know, policemen or stamped on people's heads and called them all sorts of things like white scum. Excuse me. They were treated differently. So the thing is that there needs to be it's really important, we keep saying this, that there has to be true without fear or favour in policing. We need to have free speech. We need to be able to assert things, and we need to say things that are unpleasant. But it's also the case that, you know, the hypocrisy is very dangerous. And that's why the Together Declaration, we're very passionate that we say to people should be able to have free speech. But we've seen it with kettling, we've seen it during anti-lockdown protests, that police were treating people differently, even at the same time, different types of protests. And it's really essential in Britain that we don't allow that to continue.
Sure.